This time check is brought to you by Massey Stores Gourmet for the finest ingredients for living with fresh gourmet specialties that inspire comfort and a healthy lifestyle.
This is Choice TV, your prime time leader.
Politically Incorrect can also be followed live on www.choice39.tv, facebook.com/choicetv St. Lucia, on YouTube, Choice TV St. Lucia, and also on our radio partners, Kyrie FM 93.1 and 107.9, and Liberty FM 92.3.
Good afternoon and welcome to Politically Incorrect. It is Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017, and I'm your host, Roger Moore. Yes, he passed away just last evening at the age of 89. That one is going to affect my brother and many others. Now, I want to get started very quickly because I want to talk about fake profiles. I got my mail. I've had my mail hacked for about 2-3 months. Nobody seems to be outraged, and I wish somebody in the media, any reporter, would ask the Prime Minister why the official page of the United Workers' Party government, this reigning government, has mail or email circulating, hacked email of the immediate former Prime Minister, a priest as well. I don't know where the boundaries are. I was a bit taken aback when my father's profile was hacked, cast Hilaire, and I noticed a particular bent that it is only Labour Party officials that seem to be having their profiles hacked. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but the latest is the leader of the opposition, the Honourable Philip J. Pierre, has had his profile and a fake profile created. So that's myself, Sir Julian, Kenny Anthony, the priest, Philip Pierre, and a number of others, all conspicuously people who do not support this government. And I stand by not only what I've said, but what Claudius has also said, that it's obvious that people have been brought in to hack people's profiles, people's email, fake profiles, and so on. And I also say again, Facebook is becoming a seriously unhealthy place mentally for St. Lucians, and it has become a reprobate station or sanctuary. In the meantime, I want to start off because I want to give the benefit of being confused. I see one consistency. I have searched for it. I see consistent inconsistency when it comes to this government. They seem to be incapable of sticking to one story or all being on the same page. And the worst part about it is the evidence keeps mounting against their terminological inexactitudes. So first, I want to start with my first set of confusion with regards to the DSH document as to whether it's confidential or not, or whether it is what we're referring to is the real document or not. I just don't know.
Is a framework agreement binding? It is. But if we reach an impasse on any of the issues, whether they have a problem with what we're saying or we have a problem with what they're saying, you can't continue.
When people would read it, they'll see there was no confidentiality agreement in it. So it's a document that would have been made public.
He cannot do that. The government's position has been that we have signed a confidential agreement and we have not acknowledged in any way that the documents that are in circulation are correct, Madam Speaker.
Can you comment on the veracity of the parts of the document that has been circulating in the public domain?
We want to be a transparent government. Okay, so this is information that would have been out anyway once we had finalized the total agreement, but that it's out early, it really doesn't bother me.
I have not said the government has not acknowledged that that information is correct. So therefore, unless he can substantiate to you, Madam Speaker, that he knows who the author and the authenticity of that document, I have to say that he cannot submit it to the House.
It really doesn't bother me.
notwithstanding the obvious legal ramifications, and let's face it, there are many, I'm even more confused when I thought, and I said, well, I've already been upset personally and shown by the buyback clause and the gross development value, and looking at what this man is supposed to be putting in, DSH, Teoa King, Jack Lam, and others, only 10%, and I'm like, that's nothing. Where's their sweat equity? What are they risking? And then I'm seeing that as early as last week, Wednesday, Protest Wednesday, the choice between Patriots or Posterior, and Posterior went down south, and they made their case. And I'm listening to the Prime Minister talking about Teoa King putting money in.
The last project that requires you to dream is DSH. Mr. Teoa King is not going to be investing all of the money for all the projects. He is putting his own money into the horse racing track. He wants to build a hotel, he wants to build a casino, and he wants to build a marina. But when I heard, and I did my own background checks on Mr. Teoa King, and I found out what he has done in his life, I asked him, I said, Teo, will you help us? He said, what do you want, Alan? I said, I want you to put together a master plan for the whole of Viewfort. The Labour Party will have you believe that I have given all the lands to Mr. Teoa King. He would have you believe that we give him the stadium. We gave him those things to help us develop those things, not for him to keep.
So I couldn't make much sense out of that, except for the part where it says he is putting in his own money, when I thought that he was bringing in, by what was said, that he was bringing in other investors, including, like I said, Jack Lam, who I featured yesterday. But, like I said, it gets worse.
The race course,
Yes.
is that a CIP-approved project?
Not yet.
What does that mean?
Meaning the construction of the racehorse track is being undertaken by the developer. We have not finalized the agreement, and once the agreement is finalized, it then has to go to the CIP board. It then comes to the minister, which would be the...
So what do you mean when you say that the only aspect that's written in stone is the racetrack?
So the only project that we have signed off on, right, as a cabinet...
But if you've signed off, pardon me there, if you've signed off on it, signed up as what?
Signed it off as a project that we've approved. So cabinet has said that we're prepared to endorse this project.
But if it's, who's paying for that and so on?
The developer. All the work that's taking place right now, and all the work until the completion is being paid for by the developer.
So the whole construction of the race course and so on is not going to be paid out of proceeds from passports or anything like that?
It will, but not at this point.
I don't understand.
So the developer is upfronting the money and proceeding with the development.
He's fronting his own money now?
Correct.
So does that mean at some time that money will be returned to him, or what does it mean?
At some time, he'll be able to use some of the funds from the CIP monies to be able to offset on the investment he's made.
Now, I can't make, not only can I not make sense out of that, I can make nonsense out of that, and I can make huge contradictions out of that, and it doesn't make sense to me. So I said, you know what, I watched, there was a press conference yesterday, and the Labour Party had, and the Castries South MP was laying waste to a lot of what was said. So I said, you know what, let's ask the people that obviously will know better than myself. At this point, I'd like to introduce the member for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Christopher.
Okay, so I don't, honestly, I think I know what's happening, but I'm in the minority. Things are not making sense. This whole thing looks like it's falling apart. But tell me what you gathered from just what was played there and what was said. I don't get it.
First of all, I don't think you're in the minority. You're actually in the majority. Most people do not understand what's happening with DSH, and justifiably so. I don't think anybody can claim that they understand what's happening with DSH. And listen to the Prime Minister, who is the Prime Minister of that country, and the person who is leading the charge on DSH, after the clip you've played, you're more convinced that he doesn't even seem to know what's going on with DSH. And if you listen, if you just watch Rick Wayne's reaction, he looked even more confused by what the Prime Minister was saying. So you had a Prime Minister saying that, announcing on January 5th, that the phase 1, I think, is cast in stone, it's settled.
That's the one thing that is approved.
That's you had the Chairman of Invest, Nusha, saying, no CIP, phase 1. Phase 1 is...
Wait. We have that clip. Can I play Pinkley Francis from Invest St. Lucia?
The government of St. Lucia are fully committed to see development happen in this country. As obviously you will agree, to make omelette, you have to break an egg. The framework agreement clearly states that every single aspect of it is subject to the laws of this country and subject to approval by the various authorities. If the project were not to proceed as a result of one of the following, either it's the unavailability of land, did not get approval from the Development Control Authority or the various authorities that are around managing the land in that area, then it's very clear in the agreement that the project will not proceed. The project will only proceed as long as you comply to the laws of this country. The developer in phase 1 of the project, which is the race course, is funding the entire phase 1 out of his own cash. There will be no CIP, and that is very clear. There will be no CIP contribution for phase 1 of the project, which is primarily the race course. All of his funding.
So you had the Chairman of Invest St. Lucia said it clearly, no CIP for phase 1. On the Wednesday night in Vieux-Fort, at the UWP meeting, the Prime Minister saying the developer is paying for phase 1. But the following night on Rick Wayne, he said he's paying, but he's going to get back the money from CIP, contradicting what the Chairman of Invest St. Lucia said, contradicting what he said the night before. But maybe all along he meant he was paying, but he's not paying with his money. He paying with our money. And again, that is what has created a problem in this country, that there is no trustworthiness in anything the Prime Minister says. And again, you play the clip where he virtually acknowledged the document that was circulating on the internet because he was asked about the veracity of it. And then he says it's not authentic anymore. Yet the document shows his signature, Pinkley's signature, and Honorable Bradley Felix's signature. It's very easy for them to say, St. Lucians, you see the document with our signatures? These are not our signatures. And this is not an authentic document. Or they can say, you know what, these are our signatures, but they're forgeries, because that's not an authentic document. So maybe we should start a criminal investigation into who produced documents and forged our signatures on it. Because if they're not authentic and they have your signatures, it's either they forge your signatures or these are not your signatures.
And they have people to do that, so...
Of course, I mean, they hacking accounts, tapping people's phones.
Black
Surely they can do that. But let's come back to the Prime Minister and the DSH. So they all made it very clear that the developer was funding phase 1 out of his own monies. But then the Prime Minister let the cat out of the bag. That yes, he might be funding it out of his monies, but he intends to get it back from CIP. And in fact, that's why yesterday I made a point that information reaching me was that the Prime Minister was informed by the chairman of the CIP, and the Prime Minister can come out and deny it, and informed him that the CIP unit had rejected the DSH proposal, and that the CIP board had rejected the DSH proposal, and Invest St. Lucia had rejected the DSH proposal. And I am told, and again, the Prime Minister can always deny it, that he was informed by the chairman of CIP that they did not accept the DSH proposal. But the Prime Minister already said, Cabinet has approved it.
Now he went after the media and he said he had to ask them to show them how they're not doing their work. And I mean, I've given the media licks as well. But he said that if you go onto the website, you'll see that the project is not CIP approved. Isn't the order of appearance, for lack of a better way to put it, the order that things, the sequence in which it's supposed to go, that it gets CIP approval and DCA approval and all of these lower bodies first and then cabinet approval?
Yeah. I mean, the process that had been put in place was one where a developer considered the government, indicate they have a project, they're willing to implement such a project, and they would want it to be CIP approved. That developer would submit to DCA his plans. He would get approval in principle, He's required to meet a number of other requirements. He then sends it to CIP. CIP shares it with West St. Lucia for an appraisal. CIP also does its own appraisal. And then they will decide whether or not, on the basis of the two appraisals, West St. Lucia and CIP, that they would want to make a recommendation to the minister that this is a project that should be CIP approved or not CIP approved. The minister then takes it to cabinet, and then cabinet decides we concur with the recommendation to approve it as CIP, or we accept that it should not be CIP, and then that's the destination that we made. But the Prime Minister, based on what he said, is that cabinet has already approved it, and then he says, but we've not finalized the agreement yet. Now, how do you approve a project, the details of a project? It's cast in stone. But you're saying you've not finished the agreement yet.
And not only that, but I made sure to play, and I keep repeating it for clarification, that the framework agreement, the foundational document, is legally binding.
Well, that's even past framework agreement. That's not even framework agreement anymore. Let's put that aside for now. You're saying that you are negotiating it piece by piece. So let's put framework agreement aside. We don't agree with you saying that it's not binding, but he's now come around and said it's binding. Because when they first started off, remember they said it's just a framework agreement, it's not binding. Then they came around and said, no, it is binding, but then we negotiating each piece separately. So that's fine, you negotiate each piece separately. But then you're saying to us, in the same sentence, that cabinet has approved. If something is cast in stone, it means all T's crossed, all I's dotted, finalized, accepted, approved, signed, sealed, delivered. And there was a ceremony where they signed and said, cast in stone. But on Thursday night, you're saying, the agreement has not been completed and we're still negotiating. In the same sentence, you said that cabinet has approved it. I mean, it is totally bewildering what really is going on with the DSH. And then you're finding out that it has been rejected by the professionals whose job is to do professional appraisals of those proposals. And I can tell you from my own experience, they are professionals and they're very rigorous in what they do. So they gave their recommendation and they said, don't accept it. Now, because there's a fundamental error in the whole proposal, it is to be funded through CIP. And I'll tell you something, on reflection again, it's even worse than we thought, you know. Because think about that. Think about that. Based on the business plan that I have seen, that I have seen, and it's something we've always suspected, and we've said so, the project will be funded through the sale of citizenships. But the same developer is saying, I'm going to attract investors to come and invest in the project. So if you're financing it through the sale of CIP, and then you also bring in investors with money, so you're going to have money from investors for a project that's already fully funded through CIP. And in those CIP funds, you're making a huge profit. A huge profit. So you're making a profit from the sale of the CIPs.
Who's making the profit?
The developer. Plus the money from the investors coming in. So if you're going to put up a hotel, that hotel has been funded through CIP. But you also bring in investors to give you money to build that hotel.
So two sources of income.
Two sources of
income. But then on top of that, Prime Minister said he's given them the airport and stuff like that as well to look at. If they're getting money through CIP, then wouldn't they also be getting the airport development taxes?
Well, I'm not too sure about the airport because I'm hearing another story about how the airport will be financed.
It's now a $150 million loan.
$150 million loan I'm hearing from, you know, a friendly country.
But you see, my problem with that is the Prime Minister in his rebuttal to the estimates laid waste saying that, you know, everybody's talking about how he wants to run the country like a business. It's not about profit, it's about process. And he says that the way that the country has been run by politicians is what has us in so much debt right now. And in running a country like a business to see the results. But so far, the budget seems to be heavy borrowing budget. And now you're talking about borrowing to do the airport. So I don't get it. The contradictions are what is hitting.
And especially when the previous arrangement that the government, the SLP administration had with the IFC was a private-public partnership where there would be no debt. that the private developer would have put all the money up front in exchange for a lease. At the end of the lease, returns the airport to the government, and the government not having to take any loan or put any money in it. Now, if you're going to put that aside to then take a loan of 150 million US, or whatever it is, to reconstruct the airport, it really begs the question, why are you doing this? Why are you not taking the better option? And you're talking about the IFC, you're not talking about any fly-by-night organization. You're talking about the private sector arm of the World Bank. So there is a lot of credibility that comes with that. But if we come back to the DSH, there is, like you said, a consistent inconsistency with how the Prime Minister them have dealt with the DSH. And they're now trying to promote it as jobs and development must come to Vieux-Fort. Of course, we want jobs and development in Vieux-Fort. In fact, a number of the projects that the Prime Minister is boasting of now started off under the Labour Party.
So, but for example, I know there's the range.
The range, the Shabusha, and the canals.
And canals,
yeah.
Right? So that's 3 projects. And here's my problem. He seems to be able to rattle off the job projections for those in terms of how they're put together. 500, 650 for Shabusha, he says 200, 250 consistent jobs. But when it comes to DSH, he seems to be changing back and forth. So first of all, I to be honest with you, I don't understand. And the thing about it is I see, for example, with all of the development that's supposed to go on with Vieux-Fort, because everything is about Vieux-Fort and the Labour Party and all of these people from the north that are against the people in Vieux-Fort. I don't understand how, for example, an administrative building, even if he says he wants to go to paperless government, even with paperless government, there must be a need for a building. Even if it's just one, and the fact that government rents a number of properties in the south, in Vieux-Fort in particular, should justify that. What I see is a situation where people have been starved, and the people who are starving them by stopping projects in Soufrière, stopping projects in Vieux-Fort and so on, are now coming to tell you they're going to be the ones to feed you, and then you have to be grateful. So from there, I run into problems. But my point with DSH is this. Some of the people that I have so much respect for, who they just say, okay, the offensive clauses should be removed, and this, that, and the other. Can this thing be rescued? And if it is to be rescued, what does it call for the Prime Minister to do?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'll tell you something. I have a number of difficulties with DSH, a number of difficulties. One, the terms and conditions are horrific and not in our best interest and should be negotiated away. And in fact, only yesterday, a journalist actually raised another very offensive clause that in all this debate we've never really focused on. It's a clause that deals, that is 18.1, is security of investment, where in the framework agreement, the government undertakes to refrain from any act, any policy that the developer believes can affect the profitability of the project. Yeah.
I myself have glossed over that.
Many people have not even, I think it might be 18.1, I'm not very sure, but it's from memory I'm speaking. But there is actually that clause, which means when we prepare our budget every year and we deciding on marketing, promotion, how we spend money, what kind of adjustments we make in the country, you have to consider whether or not it would affect the project in Vieux-Fort. And the developer has a right where he can sue for damages if he believes you acted in a manner. And in fact, if you recall, and I was reminded of it last night, what happened in Grenada now, where an investor has invoked a buyback clause in relation to shares in a particular company, is because they feel the government has taken actions by liberalizing the energy sector. It would affect the returns they had on the shares they have in a utility company.
But then add to that, let's look at the people that are being brought in to supposedly shore up the weaknesses of Tewa King financially, like Jack Lam. Here's a guy that was wanted in the Philippines for embezzlement, bribery, hiring 1,300 illegal workers, right? He's hired 1,300 illegal workers. He has left. Obviously, he still has access to his money. So even things like the escrow account that we have allowed to be set up overseas and so on, they almost invite the nefarious type characters. And where does this guy land but in St. Lucia?
Yeah. So I remember the Prime Minister actually acknowledged him at the ceremony.
Yeah, he acknowledged.
And said, I'm looking forward to your presence in St. Lucia. But let's go back to DSH. I was making a point. So I have a problem with the terms and conditions. I have a problem with the scope of it being given to one developer. But I also have a difficulty with the concept. And let me tell you what my difficulty is. And I've had the good fortune in life to visit a number of capitals of the world. I am not one who's blown away with the skyscrapers and believe that St. Lucia should start looking like Miami Beach or start looking like Dubai. I don't think so. I honestly do not believe that should be what wows us about our development of our country. And I said to you during my budget presentation, why can't we be chic, charming, and sophisticated? Why? Why can't we be that? Why should it be about the skyscrapers that will come to Vieux-Fort? Because the same Prime Minister who went to Soufrière looked at the square and said, this design is not in keeping with the personality of the country and of Soufrière, so he stopped the project. That was, he claimed, his excuse. But why in Vieux-Fort? See, what excites you is the skyscrapers and not something which brings out the charm and the sophistication of St. Lucia.
But even the Chinese, in terms of their culture, what have they done? They've made a fake Paris, made fake Arc de Triomphe, fake Eiffel Tower. They have fake New York, they have fake parts of Germany and everything, and they're just cloning everything. And you look at that, and even the first thing an architect told me is there's no thematics to that.
Precisely.
Just copy and
there's
paste.
No relation to the history of the country. I think when we met with the range, one of the first things we said to them, Stroza is a very special part of St. Lucia in terms of its history, the arts, whatnot. So whatever hotel you're going to build there, it has to be integrated with the community, especially using Shabusha, which has its own historical significance. And we said to them, no. And I heard the Prime Minister boasting of the concept, and Honorable Bradley Felix boasting of the concept of the hotel at Shabusha, because we said to them, that's what you must do. In Black Bay, the hotel that will be built from the designs will be a fantastic hotel. And we said to them again, whatever you do, you must be able to make it reflect some St. Lucian-ness and something about our history. And so my difficulty with DSH is the terms and conditions, the scope and extent to which you're giving one developer the responsibility for Vieux-Fort. And thirdly, the very concept of what he's doing. I think as St. Lucians, we can develop a product in St. Lucia that's attractive, that can bring in visitors, that is more reflective of us as a people. And do not tell me you're just going to put skyscrapers because you want to copy Dubai in Vieux-Fort. Is that really what we have to do?
Another thing is, like, one of the pictures that they have online is this thing about Las Vegas. But Las Vegas was built where there was a desert. So are we saying that Vieux-Fort is a desert because...
It's a ghetto, according to the Prime Minister. But remember, Rick Wayne also asked him about the causeway. Why is it necessary? He says it's necessary because to have a very, very exciting development.
Well, that part, to me, the one thing that has shown itself is that, and nobody's asking the question, why does this thing need to be so big? Why do they need all of that?
That's the point I'm
now,
making.
to me, why I see it needing that is China State Construction. Can I get that clip, please?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a clear understanding from the Prime Minister whether he signed an MOU with China State Construction Engineering Corporation.
I am not prepared to say which companies I've signed an agreement with, but I am prepared to say to you that I signed no MOU to deal with any construction company to do with DSH. None.
I got to have another call.
Why does China Horse Club have on its website?
Yes.
You signed, on behalf of the government, an MOU, a tripartite MOU, between DSH, the government of St. Lucia, and China State Construction Engineering Corporation.
But it has nothing. But
the start turning.
It has nothing to do with any DSH project.
So what does it have to do with?
It has to deal with capital projects in the country, of which we have signed several MOUs in order to solicit people to come here and to make investments. So all I'm saying, I'm just trying to be, like you, very specific, because I know that you guys hold on to every single word. I have not signed any MOU to deal with a construction company to do the work of the DSH project. That's a private investment.
So why would China Horse Club, the company that is doing DSH, or is connected to DSH, I should say, put that out, that there is a tripartite MOU between the government of St. Lucia, China State Engineering Construction Company, and DSH?
Well, then I would suggest then that when Mr. Teo King is here next time, I will personally make sure that when we're doing a press conference, that you're invited and you can ask him.
But I'm just telling you categorically.
No, you're the responsible person.
But I'm telling you categorically, I have signed several MOUs, okay, with construction companies to deal with the capital projects of St. Lucia.
The labor component of the $2.6 billion Bahamar project has been a huge concern for many Bahamians who have questioned the need for more than 8,000 foreign workers. As part of the developer's deal with government, 8,150 foreign laborers would help to build the resort on Cable Beach.
Now, this part for me also raises questions, because he's saying there on talk that he did not sign anything with China State. Yet on the China Horse Club site, which is what we just showed there for everyone to see, it says that he did sign an MOU. The information that I have gotten and received is that the day after, which is what that reflects, that he signed an MOU. And also with China State Construction Company, they are also talking about work that they're going to be doing in St. Lucia as well as some other Caribbean islands. So I don't know what to make of that. What do you make of that?
I mean, you can't trust anything the Prime Minister says anymore. I mean, just based on evidence. Just based on evidence. One, he said he did not agree to finalize any negotiation, but he said Cabinet has already approved it. It just continues. And then the Prime Minister on Thursday night made a startling announcement that a racetrack is not going to make money, it's going to lose money. And I said, well, if it's going to lose money, why are you building it? He says, because it's a bait. It's a bait to attract other investors to St. Lucia. So Mr. Akin is building a racetrack.
As bait.
As bait. And according to the Prime Minister, it's cheese. So apparently they want to attract some rats to come to St. Lucia.
Well, so Jack Lamb comes to mind.
Yeah. So you're saying, you know the racetrack is not going to make money, but it's going to be paid out of CIP money, it's going to be operated out of CIP money, because it's not going to make money, so he's not using his money. Mm-hmm. He's going to use it from the sale of our passports. And hopefully he's going to use our sale of our passports money to build something he knows that's not going to make money. He's going to use our passports money to maintain it and operate it, because it's not going to make money. And hopefully, through that, he can attract other people to come and invest in Geofort. He'll bring other investors. But in bringing the other investors, he's also saying that more passport monies must be used to build the same things the investors are going to come for. So when the Prime Minister tells you, no matter what you'll say, what you'll do, you're going to get DSH. Because they're very clear in their minds that they want this to be CIP approved. And once it's CIP approved, and they can sell the citizenships, they will have money to do whatever they want. Whether you oppose it or you don't oppose it, once it gets CIP approved. But the fact is, the Invest St. Lucia and CIP unit and board has rejected it. What is the Prime Minister going to do? Is he going to overturn their decision?
Can he do that?
Well, Cabinet can take a decision and say, yeah, I think in a sense.
So even if CIP doesn't approve it, Invest St. Lucia doesn't approve it, if the Cabinet
decides to override?
They can.
Well, I think they can. I think so. I mean,
so basically,
lawyers can probably
this is no longer about the better judgment of the church the better judgment of the SLHTA, the better judgment of the National Trust, the better judgment of the Labour Party, the better judgment of concerned citizens, even the better judgment of Invest St. Lucia, of the CIP officials that even they have appointed, right? And they could still potentially go ahead with it.
I would think so.
Well, the one thing I want to address specifically is to those people that keep talking about the jobs. In the framework agreement, which I've read 500 times, clauses 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 make it expressly in favor of the master developer in his absolute discretion that he reserves the right to hire who he wants. The Bahama, which I just played a clip from you you saw that there was an employment quota and still it wasn't respected. Right? But nonetheless, the ominous thing about this is that this started off with people on United Pack and so on saying 6,000 jobs. Then the Prime Minister in his rebuttal, which I'll be sure to play for you tomorrow, said that he was hoping for 1,000 jobs. A couple of days later, he said 1,500 jobs. But he has no way to guarantee any jobs. But you see, the most important thing is to keep understanding how the Prime Minister sees and thinks about St. Lucian workers.
We have to look ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves why. I know that there are good tilers in St. Lucia. I know there are good tradesmen in St. Lucia. But a lot of them have basically said, if I'm not going to get paid a salary of this level, I'm not going to do that work. And some of them were just prepared to stay home. There's stories of people who had trucks and they felt they had made enough money, and Christmas time came and the guys were working overtime. They just went home and they wouldn't even let anybody else use the trucks. So there's something that we have to change within ourselves, and I think it comes back to our education system.
Robots and a computer could never take care of a horse. It's only people that can take care of horses. And I know of the love and the passion that the people in the South have. And I know how great they are going to be at taking care of horses.
You have to tell me what you think on that one.
I mean, it is condescending and it's disrespectful. And let me tell you why. One is not going to say that people should not be employed to take care of the horses. You're not saying that. Because they are groomsmen, they are stable boys, and you expect, the jobs to be taken. But if you're going to create an equine industry, if you're going to create a DSH as it is being sold by them, you would want to believe that St. Lucians can work at all levels of the project, at all levels. Manage enterprise, manage hotels, work at all levels. Senior positions should also be for St. Lucians. And when the Prime Minister, in trying to sell the project, what he talks about is that you will take a lot of pride in taking care of the horses. I mean,
but what I like is he knows that the people of the South, because I guess the people of the South will always love to take care of horses. And that's a part of it.
I mean, no, it is grossly disrespectful. But it's the same kind of thinking that would say to people that you live in a ghetto. You're from a ghetto, and therefore, you have to have something that you will now say you're from not Vieux-Fort but from the Pearl of the Caribbean, because you don't want to be in a ghetto.
And you don't want to associate with Vieux-Fort, you want to associate with
Now, one is not saying anybody should aspire to remain in any ghetto. You should aspire to get out of a ghetto. But to seek to demean people in that form, again, reflects a lack of connection between the average St. Lucian and what St. Lucia means to them and their own aspiration.
Well, it also to me shows me from a level of thinking. I genuinely took the time and I searched my thoughts. I have never been to Vieux-Fort and most parts of St. Lucia. I don't know, maybe I have a stereotype of a ghetto in my mind. I think of inner cities in the United States and those kind of, like what was in Good Times, those kind of things. I've never looked at Vieux-Fort and seen it as anything. What I always saw Vieux-Fort as, and that's what we tested out when we did Independence in Vieux-Fort, was a lot like Washington, D.C. The ability to plan and map out a proper extrapolated city that really and truly was sort of like a futuristic type place. Ghetto for me, as a matter of fact, we have that clip. It's not in sequence, but it's called Pearl of the Caribbean. Can you just play that and we'll go to break? Pearl of the Caribbean.
From nonsense. I am not coming here. United Workers' Party is not coming here. Teilhard King is not coming here to take away anything from Vieux Fort. He's looking to put his money in, give you his ideas, bring his contacts in order for us to have the pearl of the Caribbean. Say it with pride, the pearl of the Caribbean. That when people say, I am from Vieux Fort, soon people will not know Vieux Fort. You are from the pearl of the Caribbean. Where you want to be from, a ghetto, or you want to be from the pearl of the Caribbean? Where do you want to be from? Are you sure? You sure you're not happy with your life the way it is?
We'll be right back after this.
Lucas-Ed. Lucas-Ed. SDLC, everybody. Lucas-Ed energy, get ready. Hey, nobody shutting down this. Lucas-Ed in the van. The whole crew up and ready. Lucas-Ed in the hand. The LZ. Lucas-Ed energy.
It's M&C Home Depot Sizzling Sale, now on. That means more products and more deals for a lot less. Come in now for our Sizzling Sale and the best prices of the season. Save big on appliances. Enjoy over 25% off small appliances store-wide. Shop for the biggest names in housewares with 30 to 50% off selected items. Come in now and open up new possibilities with our Sizzling Sale now on. Sale ends May 31st. M&C Home Depot. Better value for better homes.
Imagine a place where the time-honored traditions of an ageless sport meet an array of social and recreational amenities in a beautiful tropical setting. The St. Lucia Golf and Country Club, combining a picturesque setting with first-class amenities and service in an aura of old plantation-style charm. It's the perfect backdrop for hosting a variety of special events, weddings, staff functions, conferences, cocktail receptions, anniversaries, private corporate breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. We offer full food and beverage catering services with a variety of options to suit any event. Enjoy Cap Grill Restaurant and Bar, our member lounge, or patio-inspired settings for your events. Call or email us today to book your events or visit our website and Facebook page, St. Lucia Golf and Country Club.
Dear friends, our holidays are fantastic. I played tennis this morning. We were in St. Thomas. Tonight, Peter and I are planning a romantic dinner in St. Martin. The performance of the dancers on the stage last night was amazing. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun today, as well as doing some shopping. So I'll see you in Barbados soon. Your friend, Katie. Choose your ride for the travel of your life. Princess, Carnival, Cunard, Royal Caribbean, and Celebrity. Call the Travel Boutique at 451-6364.
Automotive art, your car, our passion. When you're shopping for your car is where you start. We got it all at Automotive Art. Tires, rims, and accessories. Everything your car needs. We're the Automotive Superstore and more. Automotive art, your car, our passion. Automotive art.
The money goes into an escrow account, all right? And the monies can be drawn down on a series of things for the...
So the money can't be drawn down by any one party?
No. So what would happen is if I'm the developer, we put it into an escrow account. When it's time to be drawn down, I'm saying, okay, I need to pay my architectural fees. I need to pay the engineers.
And you both have to sign?
And we both have to sign.
So who signs for St. Lucia?
It's normally somebody from the... Is it from the CIP or be from the Ministry of Finance?
So somebody from here.
Somebody from the government signs it. So it depends if it's being implemented by the Invest St. Lucia unit or by the CIP, although CIP doesn't want to be involved in that.
That making sense to you, St. Lucia? Because it doesn't make sense to me. The other part is that I keep thinking again of Jack Lamb, and let's say he puts in the money for the racetrack that now has to be refunded with CIP money. And then I'm saying to myself, why is this account located overseas? Because look at, for example, what happened in the Philippines. He left the country, The people wanted him. The President Duerte wanted him. They had all the hearings on him, and when they wanted to get him, he and his money were located, for most part, outside of St. Lucia. So now we are literally setting ourselves up like rabbits, like a set of boas, that these guys, you say if you want to take for architectural fees, but let's say they want money to go on Lime. Let's say they just want to, like I've said before, buy bread and cheese for everybody in China, right? Even if we have an objection, we can't do anything about that. And you know that you spoke yesterday, and the part that gets me is that you alluded to a Teo King letter. Now, I want to play, for those who don't remember, Labour Party people will remember, the Prime Minister, the same person that was concerned about hacking, somehow was encouraging everybody to see this leaked document and leaks and leaking stuff, the Ainsworth letter, where Kenny Anthony had a conversation with a developer. And in that there now, the one thing that I stuck to was clause 11, when just saying that we met, we spoke, whatever. But in the part number 11, it says specifically, it refers to an employment quota. So even in a cursory meeting or whatever, promise or whatever, however you want to frame it, the point is that even then there was a mindfulness toward making sure that St. Lucians got 80% of the work in terms of employment. But this Prime Minister, both in the framework agreement and even in how he speaks about DSH now, doesn't seem to put much merit in that. And then they say it bows to the laws. The framework agreement would be the laws of the labor code, but yet you're literally seeing things like waivers of licenses and so on that are provided. Now, can you tell us anything about this letter and the history behind that, as we are going to open up the lines in about 2 minutes?
Yeah. No, it's a simple point about this letter. And I want to start off by saying, and I've said it to many persons when I've explained the Robert Ainsworth letter, and that's my view. Prime Ministers write comfort letters. They do. An investor comes to see you, and he says, look, I have a project I want to implement in your country, blah, blah, blah. I'm speaking to my financiers, and we need to be able to say to the financiers that, yes, the country is willing to consider the project under X, Y, and Z terms, subject to final approval. And then the Prime Minister can write a letter, say, I have met with X, Y, and Z, we've discussed X, Y, and Z, and we're prepared to negotiate and settle an agreement that encompasses A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You give that to developers often. In fact, the Prime Minister, in response to the caller who was asking about the China State Company, said, I've signed many MOUs for projects in St. Lucia, because as Prime Ministers, you do that. Sometimes you take it to Cabinet, sometimes you don't. In the case of the Robert Ainsworth, it was taken to Cabinet. The Prime Minister then, Kenny Anthony, informed Cabinet of that development. But that was used by the Prime Minister, by Honorable Guy Joseph and other ministers to prove that Kenny Anthony had signed a deal with Robert Ainsworth to sell 1,000 acres of land in the South. And they used that, in their view, as proof. And we're saying, why such hypocrisy?
And they went to the House, ready in the
House. But did you ever hear the Prime Minister said he had given a comfort letter to Teo Akin before he signed those agreements? He never said that to St. Lucia. Not once did he say that, you know, I had signed a letter for Teo Akin, X, Y, and Z, whatever, and justified. He never said it. They had been absolutely, totally silent on his own letter that he had given to somebody. And my point is the hypocrisy. I am not decrying whether he should have written one or should not have written one. And he will have to come and indicate when did he write it and what the contents are. My point is the hypocrisy. You try to make Kenny Anthony look so bad because he had written a comfort letter when you had written a comfort letter for the worst project that we've ever had cause to discuss in St. Lucia, the DSH project. But you've never said so. You've never said so.
So that letter now that it has surfaced, right? You read a couple of excerpts from
I read one of my favorite paragraphs where he was saying thoroughbreds will qualify under CIP.
So passport for a horse.
Well,
passport for a horse.
I mean, and he actually said so in the letter that he will agree that thoroughbreds will be a qualifier. And so right now in our regulations, hotels qualify, And, you know, under enterprise, we have a list of different businesses that qualify. So under real estate, supposedly horses, thoroughbreds will now qualify. But I don't know how it qualifies as real estate.
Horse estate?
Because horse estate.
Maybe a hospital. I don't know. I mean, they're the ones that have to tell.
I found that one a little funny. And, and more so, too, under the regulations, you can keep the investment for 5 years and then you can unsell it. Now, a thoroughbred is not lasting 5 years. After 3 years, people don't raise those horses anymore. So I'm trying to figure out, how does that investment last 5 years? And if you're supposed to unsell it to make a profit, after 5 years, a thoroughbred really depreciates. So there's no value in selling a thoroughbred after 5 years, unless it's a world champion that you can use for breeding purposes. Yeah. So I don't understand how does a prime minister write a letter to a comfort letter to investors saying he's going to allow thoroughbreds to be investments when after 5 years it depreciates, and second, it can die within the 5 years. So how does it come? I actually found that one a little funny, and I read it in the press conference just to highlight, you know, obviously the Prime Minister had not clearly thought through what he had written. I was not trying to decry whether he should have written a letter or not, because like I said, Prime Ministers write comfort letters. But it was the sheer hypocrisy of trying to use the Innsworth letter and try to make Dr. Kenyatta look bad and to decry it and make it look like it was an agreement when they had written to Tio Akin and had had said things to him in that comfort letter. But he will have to respond, the Prime Minister, and I hope the journalists, when they see him, can take him upon it, and he'll have to explain why he never said to Sanusha. That's all I want the Prime Minister to say to us.
But I know what he's going to do.
Why did you never tell Sanusha you had your own Tio Akin comfort letter before you signed the agreement?
Well,
and how do you make a horse a qualifying investment?
Well, for me, all I've said is that I think between Guy Joseph, Nancy Charles and the Prime Minister, they have one remarkable similarity. They can speak without shame. The Prime Minister spoke the other night and he spoke about how people attack the messenger when the message is bad, and then he went to lay waste to what's his name, to National Trust, Mr. Tulsi. So I
no, but explain to me, how do you make a horse a qualifying investment?
I don't know. Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect. Please address all your questions to Dr. Hilaire. Folks who are calling, please, because, I mean, like I said, I'm just confused now. I don't get it. And for me, all I can say is that, to me, this project acts, walks like a con. The people that are involved are con men. I mean, I was looking at a clip. First of all, the Prime Minister is the first one to talk about due diligence, yet acknowledges that he went to Mongolia after signing the agreement. Right? Even with regards to the dating of that comfort letter, I know I don't have it in my possession, folks. He has it, so you'll have to ask him, when was that comfort letter dated? Because then it may suit the timelines with which the Prime Minister said that he first met Teo Akin. Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Yep.
Yeah. Although what I had to ask Miss Dr. Hilaire already answered that for me, but I still coming on. Because during the budget, the Prime Minister come in Parliament with an axe. He axed Radio St. Lucia. He axed the post office. He axed the printery. He axed the marketing board. He axed the fishery. And then when he finished, a few days later, go down to Rifut and tell the people of Rifut, the horse racing track, he will employ 1,500 people will be working there.
Yep.
And just a few minutes later, telling on Rick Wayne on the 18th day, telling people that that horse racing track won't be making money.
And the problem is, I do not understand why people cannot see, why people don't have a problem with that.
No,
are they not seeing the contradiction?
It's cheese.
It's cheese.
Yeah,
okay.
So they're waiting for the rats to come.
It won't be making money. And when you finish, you already ask all the places we want, places of importance. And you ask it, and you go in there and put so much money in something that won't be making money.
And that's a man that that's running a country like a business, huh?
Is that any sense? Well, to me, that don't make no sense and no sense at all. And when Rick Wayne asked him, well, if he's not going to make money, why going ahead? He said, prestige. What is that?
Well, my advice to him is if he wants prestige, there's a whole set of vehicles that Mario has that he can buy. That's how I look at prestige.
Anyway, Chris,
Thank you, Colin. But you see, another one too. You know, and I listen, Bradley, Bradley is a bit strange to me because he's so meek and mild when he's up north and he go down south. And he says the thing about how for 20 years, land in Vieux Fort was unutilized. Nobody in terms of the Vieux Fort Symposium and these people. But if you're given these kinds of terms, right? That is the basic argument. If you're given these type of terms, that there are a lot of people in Vieux Fort that could afford to invest or pool together to invest to do these things. But the Prime Minister says the lands are unutilized, underutilized, as if, you know, it was somebody else's land, it wasn't the government's. But yet he's willing to put a horse race track, which he is saying will not make money on it. So essentially he's willing to put a failed business on it. And he cannot promise any management level jobs. And they say there's specialization. What in St. Lucia do we not have people who can manage or casinos, in terms of our architects, in terms of construction? Why do we need China state construction? Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect.
Yes, good afternoon, Christopher.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to Dr. Hilaire.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, Dr. Hilaire, every time that the sitting Prime Minister speaks, and he speaks, it's always something out. Well, his favorite line is that he keeps saying that one's there, because I watch a rebroadcast of Rick's show and see him reading the Hillenwolf letter as though that was just casting stones. But yet, as he would have said, your favorite paragraph when you read it, and what I tend now to be somewhat disheartened is the genuinity of the media currently, because they pick up certain lines, Dr. Ernest and you, Christopher, and some of the things which are applicable, you know, and it's very confusing now, because like everything that he has been saying can be disputed. And on another show, in closing, the Jack Lamb that was given two names, he has yet to come out and dispute what Claudia said last week. And no other part of the media, no other aspect of the media has thrown that in light. And it is very dishonest that the way our media, some sectors of our media, has handled that Dr. Ernest. It leaves me in a state of confusion, and I know I'm not confused. As you would know.
Thank you, caller. And you know what? I think that's a great way to put it. It leaves you in a state of confusion, but you're not confused. You know 1 + 1 is 2. You know up and down, left and right. But people are literally telling you and repeating with confidence that, you know, that 1 + 1 = 6. Red is blue, blue is green. And I mean, even like you said about Jack Lamb, I do not know who's afraid to ask about it, but it's an obvious thing. Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, go ahead.
I'm there to, good afternoon, Mr. Ernest Hilaire.
Yes.
When Guy Joseph spoke, and the way he spoke about the hospital, I asked myself if he really cared about the people of St. Lucia. Because he said that nobody don't tell him when to do it, nobody cannot say when to start it, nobody can tell you as though if he is the Prime Minister. So I want to know what is going on in our country right now.
Well, I think the political leader of the Labour Party has put it quite well. I mean, there is so much arrogance sifting through the government now that one cannot imagine in 11 months there would be such arrogance and the way in which issues are dealt with, the way in which they respond to anyone who opposes or who has an alternative view. In other words, I mean, it goes back to the old days of shut up and listen to your masters. You know, that we are in charge, we in government, and you don't tell us what to do. It happened with the adjournment of the House to June 20th. You all cannot decide it's tomorrow that you all will speak. If you all want to speak tomorrow, well, wait till June 20th. I'll adjourn to June 20th. But it's the same kind of mentality. It is not one of sitting down and engaging and listening and accepting the fact that there'll be differences of view, accepting the fact that there is an opposition that will want to hold you accountable, that will want to point out where they believe you're going wrong. That is the state of the democracy. But when you run a business, you don't run a business like that. When you're the CEO of a business, you don't really allow staff to feel they have equal rights to say what they want and challenge and offer alternative views. No, I employ you to do X, Y, and Z, you do it, or else you go home. That's how you run a business, generally. There are some businesses, of course, that are different, but generally that's how you run it. But a government and a country is not a business. People have a right to say to the government, I do not agree with this, we believe you should do it this way, and that has to be respected and accepted. You can't, the opposition, and I said so yesterday, we're not opposing for opposing's sake. Because we started off saying, we support the project, we support jobs, we support investment, and we support the fact that a project will come to St. Lucia.
So renegotiate.
But renegotiate, because we knew, and from day one, we started to ask certain questions, because we knew what the developer wanted, and we knew it would be bad for St. Lucia. But that's what an opposition does. So to make people believe, and I think you, Christopher, have always said it very well, I make you believe that you're so badly off and you're in such a bad state. When I now provide you with some relief, I become the greatest hero that has ever lived. Because I've made you believe and convince you that you're in such a deplorable state that anything I give you, you have to be considerate and show gratitude for it. But that's not what development is all about. And therefore, the issue is not jobs or snakes. It's not about that.
And that caller is all Guy Joseph, jobs and snakes. And it's a great line he had down there. He says that if he has to choose between the people and feeding families and killing snakes or snakes, he will choose jobs. Nobody ever gave that ultimatum.
I think we can have jobs and we can have the snakes.
And we have had jobs and we protected the environment. But I don't understand also the part where he says that, the part where they say that without DSH there's no hope. He said that in the budget. There's no hope. Yet there are 3 projects that are finalized.
That started in the Labour Party that they're now pursuing. Now, I mean, the Prime Minister shouts and says, you know, how, they was taller than the Labour Party. At the appropriate time, I will give you all the timelines, Christopher, and show it. But the point is, as a new government, you might want to come in, you find a project has started, you might want to see the developer and said, our vision is slightly different, we might want you to change this, change that, maybe change certain terms and conditions. Because if we come into power tomorrow, we'll want to sit down with DSH and deal with that project once and for all. So you have the prerogative as a government to do so. But the fact is, the suggestion that without DSH there's no hope for the South is demeaning, because there are other options and possibilities for Vieux-Fort. And if you're going to say to St. Lucians, through the sale of CIP, we'll make a fund of $2.7 billion available for the development of Vieux-Fort. You don't think we can find St. Lucians that can think of so many creative ways to develop the South in a more sustainable way with $2.7 billion than DSH is proposing to do?
With something that you already conceded in the first phase is not going to make money. Yeah. And even with the range development, I know that the MOU was signed with the former government since 2015.
A long
But so then where's my question? If it was a CIP project, how is it CIP under the terms that the Labour Party left at $3 million and those kind of things?
He said he has changed it.
So
but we'll come to that.
He has SLS'd it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Good afternoon. This is Politically Incorrect.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Very well.
Alan just made one point, and I just want to clarify that. He said he was duly elected. I want him, if he's listening, well, I know they're listening, he will be duly removed from office. And it's just a matter of time. And, I want to thank the Labour Party for this massive protest. I've been proud to be a solution on that day. Thank you, Mr. Hunt, thank everybody who's doing their part. Because this is going to go down in history as our biggest fight that we have to win. There's no choice in that. And the winning thing is to get Alan Chastney out of office, have his father to stop talking shit on the television every day, fooling people. During the elections, I did something, and somebody stopped me. Because I was campaigning heavily for the Labour Party, which is the right party, of course. And they said, you must not say things like, white people are not good. And when you go back to slavery, everything the white man said, we believed it. Now, I have nothing wrong, against white people. But when you walk into a restaurant, they sit them first. When you go into an airline, they want to sit them first. We have to change that mindset, you know. But it's not white people doing it. It's we black people doing it. Now, I want to say something to our black St. Lucians and our white St. Lucians and our colored and our Indian, everybody, that this race thing don't exist anymore. Listen to the lies the man is saying and judge him like that. Don't judge him because of his color, okay? Because you're going to start believing him. Judge him because he's lying every day, and we need to change that concept. Read a little more, read the documents. Even, Mr. Hunt, you said you challenged us the other day to go about and tell people all about this DHS. I've been doing that. You know what? People don't read. The teachers are not reading, the policemen are not reading, the teachers are not reading, nobody is reading. So the most I do is thank you a lot because you put on a very nice video, you know, that actually took us step by step where this fool is fooling us. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller.
But I don't think it's a question of reducing it to race. It's about an issue.
To me, it's not, and I'm going to say this because, like I said, I have my grandmother who just passed is a blue-eyed white woman. And you see, even like when Lulu Bagas said something, and she said it, and a lot of people didn't pick up on that. There are white St. Lucian families, but they share our values, or we share theirs.
Exactly.
It's about not sharing the values of the average. And I'm saying it as well. I do not believe Sir John, Stephenson King, Kenny Anthony, Mikey Pilgrim, Louisi, no former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, none, I would put my hand in fire, would be so willing to give up our patrimony. And now it's telling you that they're willing to make deals that would give up our patrimony for things like a horse race track, which are not even going to make money. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But I was going to make the point to you.
Yeah, caller.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, caller. Go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Something I would like to find out about the DHS project.
Mm-hmm.
Our passports have been sold to finance the DHS project. How much equity do we have in it?
Zero.
And number two is, what is happening to St. Lucia that all our prime ministers have been, in fact, most of them have been foreign born. Look, we have a man in tourism now who is a foreign born and is very, very cocky. What is happening to our people in this country? I'd love to know. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Well, I'll let you deal with that. I don't know.
No, are we
the
talking
equity.
about
Equity.
I mean, you recall the Prime Minister Rick Wayne's program said they've not yet decided what St. Lucia is getting in return for the DSH, the DSH, for the CIP monies. But if you just look at Ojo Labs, for example, you have no reason to have faith and confidence in what he's negotiating. Because in Ojo Labs, government is putting 98%, the investor is putting about 2%, but they offer St. Lucia 15% equity. But one of the things about equity is, what do you get in return when you say equity? Are you going to get dividends? And how do you pay dividends? And when do you pay dividends? And what's the equity real value? Is it at the end of the project? If it has to be resold, you get 15 whatever percentage of the resale that you make, whatever. So having equity in itself does not necessarily
mean that it'll be equitable.
It means that it will be one, equitable, or two, that it will have the value of what you give in return for it. But we'll make it a point, and with the caller ask about foreigners again. And again, I don't have a problem with foreigners in our country. I mean, I have lived in other Caribbean islands. I've worked in Barbados. I've worked in Antigua. I don't have a problem with any Caribbean person working or living in St. Lucia and contributing to our national development.
If they respect our values.
Yeah, that's not the issue. The issue comes down to what you're saying, our values, and let us focus on this as an issue, and not whether there's a white man or whether there's a foreigner. That's not what it is. It is the issue before us. Let us examine it and see whether it's making sense for our country as a whole, and whether it resonates with our values, our own aspirations as St. Lucians, and whether it is something, you know, we want in our country or not.
But I myself would wonder, I don't even wonder whether it is the Prime Minister or this cabinet that respects our values. We are the ones who are in that seminal moment where we have to decide whether we respect our own values.
Well, I think the response to the match tells you that there are a wide cross-section of St. Lucians that have growing apprehension about where our country is going and what's happening in the country. Because if we say the match was a success and St. Lucians turn out and comforted us by turning out, we have to believe that there are St. Lucians who care about those things. Some might be frightened to come up. Some might be in the background offering support. Some are bolder, and some are even super bold like you that do your daily protests, whatnot. But there are different people on different, placement on the spectrum. But I believe deep down inside, St. Lucians care about St. Lucia. They care about the future of our country. They care about our aspirations as a people, our identity as a people. And St. Lucians are really apprehensive about where this project is taking us and the details of the project. And for the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, don't believe the Prime Minister is just a rogue who's just out there doing things on his own. When you understand that Cabinet approved Ojo Labs, this is not race. This is not nationality.
For me, it's stupidity. Nonetheless, this is Politically Incorrect. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, more of your calls.
Really, I don't believe you. I can still see the cheddar cheese bits on your mouth. Lucky for you, everyone else loves Snyder's of Hanover pretzels. They brought every size and flavor.
Taste how great a pretzel can be with Snyder's of Hanover pretzels. A healthy, low-calorie snack for all occasions. Packaged in a variety of shapes, sizes, and extraordinary flavors. Now available at supermarkets island-wide. Agents in St. Lucia, Reddick & Company. Shopping the world for you.
Yep, and I'll do it again.
Your windows, your world. St. Lou Metal and Plastic Manufacturers.
HB Cough Syrup is an all-natural syrup that provides effective relief from coughs and colds without side effects. It's a premium herbal syrup that is fortified with Tulsi and Molethi and other powerful, scientifically proven herbs. It offers quick relief from severe coughs caused by bronchitis, asthma, allergies, and even serial smoking. This non-drowsy Ayurvedic formula has no alcohol and produces no side effects. HB Cough Syrup for instant natural relief from the toughest coughs. Ask for it by name at pharmacies island-wide.
Who will be Super League champion 2017 as the competition moves into the knockout stage with the quarterfinals on Saturday, May 13th and Sunday, May 14th, the semi-finals on Saturday, May 20th and the finals on Saturday, May 27th. Matches at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground from 6:30 p.m. Admission to quarter and semi-finals is $15. Admission to the finals is $20. One lucky person will be going home with a car.
Super League, football at another level.
Lighting is about security, knowing that you're safe and there's always light to guide your path. Lighting is knowing that you're always welcomed and that someone is waiting for you. Lighting is the friend who comforts and keeps you company in times of stress. Even when you're setting the mood or just upgrading the look of your business, lighting is there. Be the designer of your life and make the beauty of lighting part of your world today. For all your lighting needs and advice, come see us at J.H. Larcher's Electrics. Your effective connection.
To Politically Incorrect with me, Roger Moore. Now, that Frank has been a caller. Everybody knows Frank. Frank is on TV every other day as a Labour Party surrogate and so on. And he made a point which a lot of people have not given enough credence to, but I see it more and more. When he says that basically Teo Aking looked and he saw a rabbit, a boa, and just took advantage. And we're going to read we're going to go to screen now and read when it comes to security and investment 18.1. In accordance with clause 17.1 above, the government undertakes to refrain from committing any act or omission which has a materially adverse effect on the master developer and or the approved project. In such an instance, the master developer shall have the right to take legal action and, if applicable, to claim damages. I'll leave that on screen, but Dr. Hilaire, I would like you to expound on what that means to you.
Well, I mean, I think earlier on, that was the clause I referred to, that we've spoken a lot about some of the offensive clauses in the framework agreement, and along the way, we have not really emphasized this one. But it's very clear that the government must not do anything
that's enough on the screen.
or fail to do anything that, in the opinion of the master developer, is going to affect negatively the project. And if that happens, he has a right to take legal action to stop the government or to claim damages. So from now on, we now have to be very considerate of the interests of the developer, Mr. King, in anything we do in this country.
So when
economic policy.
So when people talk about how large this project is, and they talk about it in glowing terms, are we in a bit of almost like a hostage crisis where, because of how much we have given to this one developer, and even in that clause, it means that basically our ability to govern freely is basically our hands are somewhat tied?
Especially in economic policy. But you know what makes it even more bizarre? If an individual was coming on the table and he put in $2.7 billion cash, he's put the money on the table, and he says to you, I'm putting $2.7 billion, and therefore anything you're going to do which is going to affect I have a right to claim damages, or anything you do not do that could make it profitable, because I'm putting $2.7 billion cash on the table. But he's not even putting $2.7 billion cash. It's our passport money. And in addition to our passport money, he's saying to us, your money you'll put in, but you have no right to do anything or fail to do anything that will affect the project. Remember, it's our money not paying for it. Huh?
That's some super queneristics. Good afternoon, this is political queneristics, that's all I can call it.
Yes, hello.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, hi. I heard something about, good afternoon. I heard something about the CPL franchise in St. Lucia. There's some rumor. Can you enlighten me on that, please? Thanks.
Well, I'll leave that one in your court. All I can tell you is what I've read, and I have not managed to think it down yet.
I want to be very careful. From what I read online, and I think there's some authenticity in it, is that CPL is leaving St. Lucia.
And we are losing it. Why?
But maybe we should wait a few days.
Okay.
Maybe we should wait a few days and find out exactly what's behind that. I think there's a lot of talk that we are losing the CPL, but they've not made any announcement. The government has not made any announcement. And, you know, I would be very, very interested in seeing what happens over the next few days.
Well, all I will say is that the reason why you and I can see or believe it is that the National Trust was part of our values. So times are changing. The Marketing Board or Radio St. Lucia is part of our values. That's going. Our patrimony is now measured along our heritage. So, I mean, cricket, I don't know, maybe we'll wait for a baseball franchise or American football. Good afternoon, this is Politically Incorrect.
Hi,
Good.
Chris, how are you?
Hi,
good afternoon, go ahead.
Hilaire,
yes.
Good to see you again. Hi, Chris. A couple of things I wanted to ask Dr. Hilaire. Okay. The first thing is, I've listened to Rick's interview with the Prime Minister. Not the full thing, but I heard the clip you played. The Prime Minister said that he had signed some agreement, but he wasn't going to say what the projects were for now.
Yeah.
Let me understand this clearly. If a Prime Minister has signed projects on behalf of a country, this is not a private project. Does the Prime Minister have a right to keep from... Okay, I could understand if the lay citizen can't get access to it, but persons like Dr. Hilaire, who is elected, don't have access to that information? And with regards to the framework agreement that's already been signed, you don't have access to information? Is that what it is?
Yeah. That's
exactly what it is. He's answered your question. I mean, think about it. Dr. Anthony is the district representative of Vieux Fort South. Both Vieux Fort South and Vieux Fort North are implicated by the DSH agreements. right? What has been signed, what's in stone, or what's not in stone, or what's wet cement. He has nothing. He has nothing. And look at the opposite way around. When Kenny Anthony was Prime Minister and Alan Shastny was leader of the opposition, he furbished him with the impacts report. So, you see where the respect stops?
I mean, for me, as a citizen of St. Lucia who's away from the country and listening to what's going on, it almost sounds as if this is not a democracy. And believe me, I don't take any political sides. I'm not Labour or UWP. But for me, for a Prime Minister to be saying that I've signed agreements, and it's almost as if it's his pet project. It's not a pet project. It's a project of the country. And the Prime Minister has no right to dictate to St. Lucians what they can and they cannot say. And the second thing I think is, I wanted Dr. Hilaire to clarify for me was, I know I've heard that with the agreement that was signed that it's our passports paying for that, the full project, or the most part of it. Is this normally how CIP works, or is it just this project?
Well, I mean,
thank you, Colin.
Yeah, that's a good question, because when the developer applies for CIP, he will state, what equity he's bringing. So you might say, look, I'm bringing 60% of the monies, and the 40% is from CIP. Yeah. There may be a developer who's going to do a project in a particular part of St. Lucia, and you might want to make sure that project happens. So you might want to say to, if he says, I want 90% CIP, you might want to say, look, it's a strategic location, a strategic project, maybe you will agree to it. So the extent of financing account of CIP is a decision of the executive. You understand? Mm-hmm. So CIP unit will consider it. They may say to the government, we don't agree with the high level of CIP they want, or we think it's a good project, but it's too high, and the government takes a decision on that. So for example, for somebody like me, any project in ancillary canneries, I would do 100% CIP because of, the particular circumstances of that area. So, but that's my personal view. So it really depends.
Well,
project.
But if you thought now, where I thought it was 90% CIP, and I was given licks because the guy only had to put 10%.
Yeah.
Now with the racetrack, now with what the Prime Minister says, it looks like it's 100% CIP.
But you see, that's the problem with this proposal, because when he says 40% CIP or 20% CIP, right? But he's using gross development value, not gross construction costs. Gross development value is the retail value of the project. So when he says to you that I am going to put 10% equity or whatever, he's making so much profit in the first phase that the equity is put in subsequent phases is from the profit of the first phase. He's not putting his own money. He's putting in profit that is derived from our CIP as his equity. So he's not putting in any new money. So it ends up being 100% CIP. But let me also tell you something about what has happened. The Prime Minister announced that the model he's moving to seems to suggest that there'll be no real estate, only donation. Now remember, $2.7 billion at 300,000 investment level meant just over 9,000 passports, 9,000 applications. If each application is for, say, a family of 3 persons, husband, wife, and a child, that is 27,000 passports. Remember, the 9,000 is an application.
But the people could have family.
But can have 4, can have 5, can have 1, can have 2 in the application. So 9,000 applications, let's take an average of 3, is 27,000 passports. When the Prime Minister does away with the 300,000 investment level, and everything is now donation of 100,000, if he allows the developer to get his way with his application, 2.7 billion by 100,000 K is 27,000 applications.
But here's the other thing.
And just now, each application is free. That's 81,000 citizenships and passports we're given. 81,000.
But then, and then the other part that is freaking me out is that China doesn't, because Tewa King says, that's where he's going, and China doesn't allow dual citizenship. So unlike the other passport buyers, like from Saudi Arabia and so on.
But Saudi Arabia also doesn't allow it. But there are countries that say they don't allow it officially, but it still exists. Now, in a country of 1.3 billion, You know, I mean, 81,000 is
nothing.
Is nothing.
But it is for us.
But for us, it is quite significant.
Good afternoon. This is Politically Incorrect.
Hi, good day.
Good afternoon.
I'd just like to ask Mr. Hilaire. The letter of comfort that Dr. Kenny Anthony wrote was sometime in February. When did Alan Shaft, did he write a comfort letter as Prime Minister or as opposition leader? And what did?
Like I've said, let the Prime Minister come and present a full disclosure to the nation about it.
Also, I thought you were just not telling me, so you're not telling
No, I've said so in the press conference yesterday, and I'm saying it again. We have said to the Prime Minister, we have a copy of the letter. We know he gave a comfort letter. The same way he went and released the Robert Ainsworth letter, can he say to St. Lucia that he did sign a comfort letter? Because he's never said he gave T.O. Akin a comfort letter. He criticized Dr. Anthony for doing one, and he released it and shared it with everybody. He never said he signed one. We're telling him that we have a copy. You now go and explain to St. Lucians why you did it, what's in it,
when,
and why you did not say to St. Lucians you had signed one. You go and deal with this matter. I am not.
Okay, so Mr. Hilaire.
Yeah.
So are you going to give him a time frame?
No. Let me tell you, the Prime Minister, I'm sure, will be asked a question by the press over the next few days, and he will respond.
So
it's not for me to go and release, comfort letters of the Prime Minister. Let the Prime Minister.
I think my thinking is just that the people of St. Lucia just want an assurance that a particular date that either it was written when he was Prime Minister or opposition leader, and what date was it before?
Well, he had to have been Prime Minister.
Well, my thing is the hypocrisy, and I come back to that you made it look so bad that a comfort letter was written. You claimed that a comfort letter was a final agreement, and all along you knew, while saying that you had written a comfort letter to T.O. Akin, and you were not saying to St. Lucians, I wrote a letter to T.O. Akin. So let the Prime Minister deal with that.
I'm not just concerned with the hypocrisy. I'm just concerned about the timing, because here you are, just before the elections, and prior to elections and after elections, he quickly signs an agreement, which I assume that he didn't read at all, but yet he had already given assurances to the developer that such and such will be done. So my thinking was, why would you give assurances to a developer when you're not even quite, if you did it as opposition leader, you're not quite sure if you're going to win the election, and if you did it as Prime Minister, you're not even sure what the contents of the agreement were, because it's apparently neither he nor Bradley Felix fully read the SH agreement.
Well,
he keeps on saying that this agreement is not cast in stone at one time, and then he says it is cast in stone. So how can you break concrete when you already pour the concrete?
All I can tell you, my favorite part of the letter is where you're going to make thoroughbreds a qualifying investment. I cannot see how any right-thinking person can think of penning on a piece of paper that he's going to make horses a qualifying investment under CIP.
Well, just now,
how do you do that?
Snakes, citizens too, because apparently snakes, they want us to do it.
No, but seriously, because
thank you, caller.
A thoroughbred does not have a race life of 5 years. The investment is supposed to be 5 years where you can unsell it. A racehorse may die within a couple of years. It does not last 5 years. It depreciates, but it gets older, so it has less value. How does somebody actually put that on a piece of paper?
Well, all I can say comes again, value system. But again,
that's not value system.
No.
You described it earlier on. You used some word, I can't remember it. But I mean, this is absurdity in its highest.
But here's the problem. Every day we say something is absurd, and then it gets normalized. We spoke about you, baldness. We didn't think that that was going to last. I didn't see Mate staying in office for another 2 days, let alone the amount of time, and then it becomes normalized. And again, for those who say about giving the Prime Minister a chance, I agree the Prime Minister deserves a chance. I agree also that the nice workers deserved a chance, but they didn't get one. I agree that the people who just got laid off from the call center, the government, the 8 that got laid off while the budget was being presented, I believe they had a very valuable role and they deserved a chance, but they didn't get one. The workers at the tourist board who got laid off, I believe they deserved a chance as well. And the Prime Minister's had 10 months, 11 months of chances. his salary is still going through to him while over 1,000 people have lost their jobs. So I don't know how many more chances we want to give, but I've seen $53 million go out the window in terms of VAT. I've seen a country now that is heavy into borrowing when we close our debt to GDP gap at remarkable levels under the former administration. So I don't know. For you, the question is now, what do you see? Because I know we ran out of time or almost out of time already. How do you see these things moving forward in this situation?
Well, I think the people must continue to demonstrate to the government that they want proper accountability on the DSH and CIP by extension. And I'm sure based on what we've heard from the Prime Minister, there'll be many other projects we might want to have transparency on. Because if that's how you handle DSH, if that's how you handle in CIP, why should we have confidence that you handle in the other projects? And he said he's already signed agreements. So we really need to start asking him, are they consistent? And look at Ojo Labs. So the pile of evidence where we should not trust what you're signing and negotiating is getting taller, is mounting. So the people must continue to say that we are ready to demonstrate that we do not accept the way you're proceeding with the business of this country, and that the Labour Party and other concerned groups in civil society must stay in a state of alert for them to be able to demonstrate to the government that we are going to continue to show our opposition to what you're doing, and it's going to mount. It's not going to lessen. If your reaction to the protest march, and you said it on Wednesday night, and it's been said on Rick Wayne, and it's been said after, that no matter what you'll do or say, you'll get in it. If that's going to be the approach to governance, then we'll have a very, very interesting, period ahead of us, because we have to be prepared. And St. Lucians have to stand up and say, you know what, we elect governments and we expect them to perform, but we're not afraid to show the government we don't agree with what they're doing. And that should apply to whether it's Labour Party or UWP. The times have changed, and people have to be prepared to say so. And I think moving forward, St. Lucians more and more have to be prepared to stand up and say, you know what, it's not about not giving you a chance, we're giving you a chance. But the pile of evidence is just mounting, and it's mounting quickly, and we have a difficulty with that.
Thank you, and with that, we'll leave you with our moment of the day. Thank you, St. Lucia.